Hi, I'm Barbara Samuels and welcome back to another episode of Soul Stirring Astrology, where I give you my texture take on the world of astrology. Well, in about 10 days time, Pluto, which is currently in Capricorn, goes retrograde for 5 months. So from April the 20th till September the 28th, Pluto is going retrograde. And it also joins Saturn, that went retrograde on the 4th of April, and Mercury, that went retrograde on the 9th of April. So we've got quite a few planets that are moving backwards. Now, Pluto is associated with power and the soul, so it's a very prominent and a very powerful planet that has a major effect in terms of who we are and our self-identity. So if we actually look at the symbol of Pluto, we have the circle of spirit, which is just above the crescent of the soul, which is equally above the cross of matter. And so when we're looking at the circle of spirit, we're looking at that aspect of ourselves that's unknown to us. But actually, in order to know it, we need to transcend it, because once we transcend spirit, we then touch the realm and the beauty and the depth of who we truly are in our spirit, and we're answering the call of our soul. So it's very, very powerful. However, in order to touch the rim of that, this is a journey that one must take by themselves. Every single one of us has this capacity. So it's not a time for crowds and your mates and other people to join you on this journey. As you know, astrology is very much a subject about your own transformation. So therefore, it's a journey that must be walked alone. Now, where there's a disconnect between matter, soul and spirit, we are then living our lives at the much baser level. So it could be where we're plunging into the dark night of the soul, or the darker elements of life, or practices of manipulation or jealousy or destruction. And it could be destruction of things that we love, but because we're not managing ourselves and managing the energy, this is how it can spill out into our lives. So it's a very powerful moment of self-reflection. Now, when we're looking at Pluto, Pluto usually deals with power in the outside world, particularly because it's in Capricorn, and Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. And Saturn is about the authority figure and status and how you are seen in the outside world and how you structure and control the outside world. Whereas with Pluto going retrograde, it's about how you bring that inwards and look at your own inner foundation and your own inner structure. Now, if we think about it in terms of the natural zodiac, Pluto in Capricorn in the 10th house, because it's ruled by Saturn, is preceded by Jupiter's house, which is the 9th house, and that's the house of natural laws and philosophies and viewpoints and perspectives. And so with this retrograde, what you're looking at is actually what foundations is your life built upon? You know, is it governed by natural law, or is it governed by man-made law? Because here is where some of the difficulties can arise, because guilt is attached, and it's either an acquired guilt or a conditioned guilt. So an acquired guilt is based on your past actions, things you've done in the past, rights and wrongs, and it's a sense of your karma. So you're dealing with the acquired guilt around it. Conditioned guilt is usually through religion or indoctrination in some way, shape or form. Either way, what it's pointing to is the potential of what you have repressed or suppressed your natural expression to cater for the acquired guilt or to cater for the conditional guilt. Now, with the retrograde period, it's time for you to examine what has been repressed. Now, what can help you is that Pluto is in Capricorn and it's forming a trine to Virgo, another earth sign. Now with Virgo is the sign of discernment and discrimination, and so it's the opportunity to work out which particular guilt are you dealing with, if it's an acquired guilt or if it's a conditional guilt, because once you know which one it is, you are then in the position to start transforming and healing this particular level of guilt. Because if it isn't dealt with, what is repressed becomes frustrating, and then that can lead to depression, and then therefore you can find that your life is spiraling out of control, which is very overwhelming, particularly that Pluto is the planet that deals with control. And it's about how you lessen the control of the external world and really looking at how you control, but mediate and grow through your internal world. And this journey that you have to take alone is going to show you what you have outgrown. You might have resisted it, you might have pretended about it, you might have pushed it under the carpet, but with this 5-month Pluto retrograde, it's showing you, it's pointing you, it's demanding that you pay attention to what you have outgrown, because in order to transcend yourself and in order to touch the realm of your inner beauty, you have to own that you're now moving into another phase of your life. And it's about evolution, and Pluto is very much about the evolution of the soul in order to tap the rim of your spirit. And so, because Pluto is dealing with truth, it's forcing you to face the depth of your truth. It's forcing you to look at and uncover the nuances of who you are. It's forcing you to shine the light. It's also forcing you to go through the dark night of the soul, because it's only when you go through the dark night of the soul, it's only when you surrender to those aspects of you that are dying for a rebirth, can you then own yourself. You can then be at ease with yourself, and you can then move into a position of demonstrating to yourself and to the world your own personal authority. Because don't forget, with Pluto, power in Capricorn, ruled by Saturn, is very much about authority, which is usually externalized. But here, the quest is about your own personal authority. Now, given what I've just said about Saturn, Pluto and Capricorn, and so the authority that we tend to acquire and live out is the authority that is associated with our social face or our public face. So it could be around your profession, your career, your standing in the world. And so that would be very much when Pluto is direct. But Pluto going retrograde is about, actually, it's the time to separate from this public face. Because is it a public face that you have acquired or you built for yourself, or you are satisfying other people's expectations of who they think you should be, and so you've kind of sort of gone along with it? Now that Pluto is retrograde, you can't do that anymore. You've got to be looking at, in order for me to rebirth and regenerate, so I can reclaim my personal power in such a definitive way that gives me a sense of agency and it gives me a sense of authority, then you've got to go through the eye of your needle. And what can help you here is, if you look at the opposite sign to Pluto in Capricorn, and we're dealing with Cancer. And so here it's about the internalization of emotional security. And it's through this emotional security that you will be able to acquire your personal authority. And the beauty of it is it will not be attached to your social standing, because to go through the emotional security, there has to be a level of being vulnerable, and being vulnerable around the things that you've disowned or you've disconnected from, but actually brings you back to who you are. And so it's through that particular rebirth that you're able to step out into the world and have a greater sense of personal authority that is separated, disconnected from your career, your professional or your public face, which then gives you an even greater level of authenticity. And it's through this authenticity, because you have transformed yourself, you can then begin to really live a more meaningful career. That's how you take yourself out into the public world. That's how you can be recognized in an authentic way. And through this, you can then help other people find their voice of personal authority. So it's a really powerful, powerful, potent time, the next 5 months, 5 months and a week, whereby you're going to be journeying into the underworld. but it's in the underworld that you're going to uncover some beautiful gems. And so that brings me to the quote of the day, which is from Joseph Campbell, the scholar and mythologist, who said, "When we stop thinking of ourselves, we truly go through a heroic transformation of consciousness." Now, that is something very pivotal to this journey, because if we think about Pluto in Capricorn, is forming a sextile to Neptune, which rules Pisces. And so we have Pluto, we have Capricorn, and we have Saturn. And Saturn here acts as the container. So this inner structure is a container. And what it's going to contain is your personal consciousness. And that is guided by Pisces. And so if Pluto, or when Pluto is direct in this sign of Capricorn, what we're dealing with is the structure of society together with the collective consciousness. And now that it's retrograde, you're tying the two together. So potent time. Work out what your structure is, understand your level of consciousness, and then you are away. Which then leads me to the question of the day. And the question of the day is this: how are you going to celebrate your personal rebirth when Pluto finishes its retrograde on the 28th of September? As always, I love to connect with you. Put your answers and comments in the comment box below. Feel free, please share this with anyone in your network who you feel will benefit from what is being shared in this episode. You can also like and subscribe to my channel. Until the next episode, have a fantastic time diving in deeply into the world of Pluto, because you're on this wonderful journey of transformation. So until then, I will see you on the next episode. Bye.